And now with our talk, Be the Gift of Peace, I'd like to introduce Reverend Dr. Captain Janine.
Good morning. Okay, so I'm a captain only because I have a good-sized boat, but I am actually becoming a licensed captain. I start classes in January. So good morning. Always a pleasure to be here. I love the energy in this room, and I want to thank you so much for working with my schedule so that I can be here. I appreciate that so much. In his book, The Planetary Commission, John Randolph Price wrote, "We each have a memory of our divinity hidden under sense layers of consciousness, a faint mental impression, an idea that we were once perfect, whole, and complete." That memory is still there. And the longing that we may feel around Christmas time is likely an unfulfilled awareness at a very deep level that we already are divine, that we already are the Christ. This idea that we already are the Christ is the fundamental difference between the teachings of New Thought and traditional religions. We believe that Jesus came to affirm our Christ's potential. And Ernest Holmes, the founder of the philosophy of science of mind, said, to believe that Jesus came to the world merely to expose his own divinity would be to miss the meanings of his whole life and teachings, for he came as the great example and not the great exception. Ernest Holmes said in Science of Mind, Christ is the embodiment of divine sonship, which has come with varying degrees of power to all people of all ages and to every person in some degree. So Christ is a universal presence. Ernest Holmes also said, as the human gives way to the divine in all people, then they will become the Christ. So then Christ is a title, and the Greek word Christos means the anointed one. So this is what traditional religion calls God in every person's soul, God's idea of itself, the divine idea. And so when God created us, he created all of itself within each of us. And so we each then have this spiritual higher self called the Christ nature. So then Christmas then is the celebration of the birth of the awareness of our divinity, our understanding that we each have this divine essence, a magnificent presence, an infinite intelligence of God that is expressing in us and through us and as us. So it's about taking the time to acknowledge and to call forth and evoke and birth this consciousness of the Christ within. So as we become more and more aware of this fact of God in me, as me, we can naturally then experience and express the gift of peace. And it is our denial of this fact, the denial that we have this amazing, incredible essence, is what causes all the lack and confusion and limitation and discord in our lives. As we celebrate our own individual Christmas and the birth of the Christ within, we can say, I'm a center for the activity of the consciousness of God. I am a center, say it with me, I am a center for the activity of the consciousness of God. And so this means that all the attributes of God, light, life, love, peace, power, beauty, joy, all these attributes are just within, waiting to be expressed. Now, I know this is kind of deep stuff that we're talking about because this may not be what you've been brought up with, but I want to look specifically at the gift of peace. A realization of our oneness with omnipresence brings peace. Ernest Holmes said that, and he said it's because we move into this place of recognizing our oneness with omnipresence, and that's when we can have self-acceptance, and it's self-acceptance that leads to peace. But self-acceptance isn't so easy, and we tend to beat ourselves up in our thinking. We condemn and criticize ourselves in our thinking, and then we get what's called monkey mind. Has anybody ever had monkey mind? Oh, good. Not just me. That's when our mind works so fast with negative thoughts, mostly about yourself, and I could have done this, I should have done this, and and it goes on and on and on. And that's self-flagellation. And we have to learn to stop judging, condemning and criticizing ourselves and other people. And so I encourage you today, make the decision today. Say, just make that decision and say to yourself, right here and right now, I choose to forgive myself for anything that I've judged about myself, whether I've judged myself as being weak or a failure or not smart enough or whatever else enough. And I encourage you, let go of the self-destructive thoughts of guilt that you might have over past mistakes, and remind yourself that you needed all those experiences to provide you with the energy to propel yourself to a higher spiritual frequency. We all radiate energy. You ever notice your energy? Sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. We all have a spiritual frequency. And as you are willing to make the decision, I'm not going to do this anymore. I just don't want to go there, don't want to be that, don't want to do that. And that means that we have to accept ourselves exactly as we are. And you know what? Yeah, we've got to admit the things that we've done, they maybe weren't so cool, and maybe they didn't help our life experiences, but then take the time to celebrate the things you did do. Celebrate the love and the joy and the blessings that we have in our lives. And say, you know what? From this moment forward, I am going to be responsible for my life and for the decisions I make. And be willing to change. Be willing to change. And in order to change, though, we have to start with this self-acceptance. And a big piece of self-acceptance is self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness can be very difficult because the voice of the ego, that monkey mind, it just feeds on the condemnation and the criticism. And so it can be really brutal. Do you ever get the time when your mind is just brutal and you have to really go put yourself on pause, And it's really all about catching yourself that you are doing it because it's so automatic. And so in a nutshell, I could give you 4 weeks of talks on forgiveness, but self-forgiveness is giving up the demand that circumstances or people would have been different than they were. Sometimes I'm just like, you just said what? What are you saying? And then, and I have a demand, well, you should have treated me with more respect. You should have been more considerate. You should have this or that. Give up the demand that people's circumstances and events were different. Or the big one, because you ever know when something happens and you say, well, I could have said this, or I should have said this, or I would have said that. Give up the demand that things would have been different and how you reacted or responded would be different. Give up the demand that you were weak or you failed or something. Let go of this, just let it go. It's just a decision. It really is that simple. It's just a decision. And another thing is, let's not be continuously upset or agitated about petty things. I love that you read this morning about some positive things. It's so easy to watch the news and get so engulfed and engrossed in it. Unless you can watch the news with spiritual eyes, and unless you can take the opportunity to bless it and see the light there, turn the news off. Because if your mind is confused and diswrought and worrying about, the world and your health and your relationships and your finances on, you're never, ever gonna experience peace. We need to be in charge of our thinking and not allow the voice of the ego to be in charge. Accomplishing self-love is easier than it sounds because we must accept just right where we are and whatever we're doing right here and right now. We become that way as we're willing to practice meditation and prayer, as we're willing to visualize light. Now, I came up with something, how do you know that you're peaceful? This is by Lloyd Thomas. He's a PhD. He's also a psychologist. He wrote about characteristics of a peaceful mind. And see if they resonate with you. You fall asleep easily, and you remain asleep and awaken refreshed and feeling good. Your sleep is punctuated with sweet dreams. You arise filled with enthusiasm for living another day. You experience a deep sense of belonging. You are loved by all those with whom you come in contact. People love your energy. Your face is alive and radiant. Good, I like that. I see heads nodding. Thank you. You're oriented to the present moment, and you enjoy each moment. You lose all interest in judging yourself or others. Self-criticism ceases and replaced by self-love and self-respect. And you consider others with that same self-love and respect. You fail to take an interest in promoting conflict or participating in competition or reviewing differences as bad as wrong. You cease worrying about events which haven't occurred. That's a big one, right? Thinking about tomorrow, oh boy, what's going to happen? And once events occur, you immediately recognize them as history, and therefore they're not subject to change. No more demands that they change. And you're plagued, I love this, you're plagued by regular episodes of appreciation and awareness of the positive events in your life. You're plagued by regular episodes of appreciation. Isn't that fantastic? And you're stuck in a keen sense of curiosity and delight in new learnings, and you experience chronic contentment. Nice, right? I feel like applauding. I don't know why. I think it's the energy in the room. I love the energy here. Okay, so we can experience peace as we practice meditation and prayer. And another technique from the Vedic tradition, which rises from Buddhism and Hinduism, they teach that the heart and mind can find peace and harmony by contemplating the transcendental nature of the true self as supreme, effulgent light. I know that's real deep, right? So the word effulgent means bright and dazzling and radiant and glowing. So you could say this translates that the heart and mind can find peace by contemplating the true self as supreme, brilliant, radiant, glowing, dazzling light. So you can just visualize light. Now, I looked in my computer and I found a talk I gave here in 2010. I've been here a long time, haven't I? And I talked all about light. So if you can just visualize yourself as a being of light, perhaps visualize standing under a faucet of light or starlight or however you want to do it, but just see yourself as being of light and see others as light. See this room surrounded in light. The more you have see that light energy, the more you can experience this feeling of peace. Ernest Holmes wrote a book called, well, it's a compilation of his work. It's called The Essential Ernest Holmes. And in this book, you will read, those of us who believe in peace should work towards this end. Let us never forget that the very impulse, that movement of peace, is in the silent contemplation, the prayerful meditation, and the sincere expectancy in our own minds. And then he wrote this, which, by the way, I printed out, and I have copies in my bag. I put some copies in the back so that you could take this home and meditate on it. And here's what he said. I live in peace with God as a partner. I live in peace with the great Creator, the maker and sustainer of all, the divine source in which my life and which all life is rooted. I seek to persist in a belief in this perfect unity with the divine. Divinity, my divinity, is at peace within God. Isn't that just delicious? So as we embody and experience peace, we will become the gift of peace, and we will then radiate out in the world. Greg Braden wrote a book called The Isaiah Effect, and he speaks of having an audience with the abbot in a remote Tibetan monastery. And he said to the abbot, if there was one message that you could share with the people of Earth, what would it be? What can I take outside to the world of Tibet? And the abbot said, peace is of the greatest importance in our world today. In the absence of peace, we lose what we have gained. In the presence of peace, all things are possible. Peace is the source of all things. And I would ask the people of the world to find peace within themselves so that their peace may be mirrored in the world. When you're mirroring peace in the world, you're not seeking anything. You are a peace provider. You bring your own sense of calm to everyone you encounter. Any chaos or situation will be lessened because you are bringing the radiant energy of peace that you are. And you know what? The stakes are very, very high right now for our beloveds, for our world, for our future generation. And the world is undergoing a rapid and radical spiritual transformation. Every person seated here, we are here. We are in this age by divine appointment, and something Something stupendous is happening to all of us. There's a new race of people, a new world of expression coming forth, and it is starting with us. We are the light bearers. We are the truth bearers. And as we are willing to enthusiastically embrace these teachings of love and light and truth, we will spread this energy wherever we will go and whatever we will do. And to paraphrase Ralph Waldo Emerson, just by showing up, who you are speaks so loudly, nobody can even hear what you're saying. Just by showing up, people are going to feel your energy, they're going to feel your essence, they're going to feel your peace, and peace is contagious. The movement of spirit is within us. It is urging us, nudging us. I combine those two words, nudging and urging. It is urging and nudging us onward, forward, upward, towards a greater awakening in consciousness. And all of humanity is becoming aware that the material world, with all its greatness, is just not enough. Humankind is becoming aware in their soul development. People are waking up to their awareness of oneness and unity, one human family. And so we stand today at a spiritual crossroads. We must carry the vision of bringing forth peace into the world. And this idea of world peace is not just some idea that exists in the future. It can be now, because the core of peace is within us. Let's be committed to peace in our lives. And so this Christmas, I invite you to nourish, support, amplify the amazing energy and power of your divine essence. Be a light into the world. Celebrate the birth of your awareness of the Christ within, and be the gift of peace. And so begins your lesson. Got time for you to do. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for the count of 4. Hold out the exhale. Usually that's not taught, but I encourage you to practice that. It's a wonderful way to be mindful in your meditation. So let's breathe in and hold the breath. Now exhale. Hold out the exhale. Now breathe in and hold it. Exhale and hold out the exhale. This prayer is based on Science Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes. Be still and know that I am God. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God within me. I am the principle of peace within me. I am the manifestation of love within me. Turn that volume down. My mind is poised in peace and beauty. All sense of fear or doubt is gone. I rest in calm trust and rely on the law of spirit to bring good into my experience. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God within me. This inner mind of mine is now divine and satisfied. I look back over all previous experiences and find and call them good. I look towards the future and call that good. I look at the present and call that good, because God is in all, over all, and through all. And I affirm and decree and declare right here and right now that for everyone in this room and everyone listening to this tape, that we move forward with a sense of absolute peace, a peace that is a visceral response for whatever we do and wherever we go, for we always have the divine ideas necessary to experience peace, freeze, Edom, and joy in our life and affairs. This is the absolute truth, and so it is. Amen. That is so